Why would you say no to chance and accidents? That's what I'm trying to get at. Go ahead.
Because that's clearly the product of design. I'm saying people are not...
How is this clearly a product
How
of
can I
design?
not finish one sentence?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Carry on.
That is clearly the product of design. And I know the fact that it's been designed by humans. My reference to evolution simply attains...
I'm not talking about evolution.
I was talking about evolution.
Then you're having a wrong discussion, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about evolution either.
You just said there has to be a designer.
I didn't talk about...
Yes, you did.
My friend,
it has to be a designer. Evolution is a classic example of what you claim to be design.
The origin of cosmos, the stars, do your evolutionary theory talk about it?
The origin, I don't believe there is an origin of the cosmos. I don't believe that there is a designer.
Can you, with your evolutionary theories, explain the cosmos, the stars and the galaxies?
Evolution explains the existence of us, not of the existence of
Right,
galaxies.
so you're in the wrong discussion. I was talking about the whole of this universe with the complexity, the stars, Planck's constant I mentioned, gravitational constant I mentioned. Are this part of your biology? Excuse me. When we're talking about...
Who made the design? Who designed the design? See what he answers to that.
When we talk about the Planck's constants, gravitational constants, we're not talking about biology, we're talking about physics, we're talking about mathematics, right? So, unfortunately, as you see, some of our friends, our brothers in humanity, they come along because they're atheists by their own ideology. They want to bring what we call a comfort zone, which is evolution of the living things, and impose that to everything else. But when you really examine it, that's why you had to leave, because the stars have nothing to do with Darwinian evolution. Nothing to do with it. So when we examine the life, the complexities of the natural world, the stars and the galaxies and the planets, the water cycle and everything, we are quite clear in one thing, that there is clearly design in there. People out there, they don't want to admit it. Because if they admit that this design, do you know the consequence of that is? They don't believe in God who designed it. So they can't say there is a design. That's what's stopping them. They will say there's an illusion of design. So if you find a human being with an eye better than the camera, they will say the camera clearly demonstrates design, but the eye doesn't. When the eye is better than the camera in many cases. The brain is better than the computers. Okay? Because we are the ones who made the computers. But they will say the computers design, but not the human brains. So this is coming from the reluctance to accept the overall designer who is the creator of this universe. This universe, if it was by itself, with no self-awareness, no wisdom or intelligence, it couldn't have done anything. Let me give you an example. Have you ever made coffee and tea? Right. In your kitchen, if there is the cups and you've got a freezer or a fridge in which there is milk inside it, inside the door is closed, and you've got a sink and a tap, you've got water, and you've got a, what you call a cooker or something, that you can put on, like a kettle or an electric kettle maybe. Have you ever seen the coffee being made itself? The fridge door opens, the milk comes by itself, flying around, comes to the cup, and it pours the milk. And the sugar from the cover up there opens, and then spoon goes to that container and takes, how many spoons do you take? One. Takes precisely 1 spoon of sugar in this and starts stirring, and then it's ready for you. Have you ever seen it happening?
No.
Never. We've never seen it happening, and we probably will never will. Why? These things requires intent, planning, design, purpose. If you have a robot, you can program the robot to fetch everything and do it like that, right? Bring it all together, and then you make you a coffee, no problem, or a tea. But if there's no intention behind it, your milk will remain in the fridge forever and ever and ever. They will never come and put you in your cup. The sugar will remain in that pot, and 1 spoon will not come in your cup. And so is your water and the heat and so on and so forth. What that demonstrates is, if the universe has no consciousness, has no will, no self-awareness, it won't be able to make anything of this cosmos, anything. Because all of this, it requires intent, intention to bring them together. You know what happens when I get a cut, when you get a cut in your hand? Yeah? Your blood cells, like your platelets, they run towards it, and then the fibrinogen and fibrins, they come together and form a meshwork, like a whole systems of clotting, okay? So that leak that happened is sealed. Now, if it was nothing as a chance, Nothing will come and nothing will do. But there's a program there already established which is doing that. This is just one example of a design in our human body. Throughout the cosmos, there are clear evidence of designs like this. Whether it's in a tree, how the water from the ground defies gravity and goes up. Because gravity means pulling down, right? This water is sucked in through the roots all the way to the top of the tree, right? Because that water is needed up there, right? For photosynthesis and so on and so forth. Defying gravity. Clearly an evidence of design. But there are people among us who don't see it, because if they call it design, then there is a consequence of having a designer. And that's why people don't want to accept it. So there's an Arab proverb which is very simple to understand. An Arab Bedouin, you know Bedouins, right? The Bedouins in the desert who have camels on the left. So one of the Bedouins said, in the famous proverb, that the camel droppings point towards a camel that was hanging about here. Because that's where it came from. It didn't come from the goat, or it didn't come from fallen from the sky, or the stars. Camel dropping is from a camel. The camel dropping is evidence of a camel being there. The footprints on the sand, human footprints, is an evidence. It's a direction, indication of a traveler which went that way. It wasn't the sand and the wind and the humidity and the temperature somehow made those prints. Clearly evidence of a human being walking there. It's a human footprint. It says the earth, the stars, the skies, all of this and the working, integral working between themselves is an evidence of the one who created them. Even a Bedouin can understand it. But yet people somehow, for some reason, they want to come away from this belief in this creator when the evidence is in front of them all around. So when you said you haven't got a particular belief in something, the evidence is all around. This is why in the Quran it says, God says, we will show them our signs, our evidence, within the horizons and within themselves, within ourselves, until it becomes clear that this is the truth. So we are told in the Quran that there are people who doubt and dispute that you will be resurrected back again for another life. Okay? Some people believe this is the only life and that's it. When you die, your bones are rotten or your flesh is rotten and that's it. That's the end of it. When the Quran or the creator of the universe is saying, no, that's not the end of it. There will be another life. You will be resurrected again, given life again, and there will be a day of judgment where you will be judged for what you have done. Did you actually fulfill the purpose of what you were created for or not? And there are two places. Whether you go to a place of eternal happiness, joy, tranquility, bliss, or you go to a place where it's suffering and torture for those who reject the creator and the purpose of their creation. So, up to you. It's your choice. So the creator says, you doubt your resurrection, God is able to bring back like the very tips of your fingers. You might ask, why is the tips of your fingers being mentioned? Why is it so special about to be mentioned, that tips of your fingers? God is saying He will recreate you even to the tips of your fingers. Do you know what's so special about tips of our fingers?
None of the same.
None of they're the same. Unique fingerprints. That's why we're using our forensic science. So God is saying, look, your fingerprints are unique, and He's going to bring you unique again in the hereafter. He's going to recreate you once again. Okay? That's how easy for it. God created you the first time. God created us. Obviously, He created other creations before. He created the angels before He created us. He created human beings, which are slightly different from the angels. It's not about evidence. We're talking about when you ask why He created, right? If I were to give you evidence for every single thing, then we would not be even discussing anything. So I'm now talking to you from the belief standpoint. God created the angels with no free will. I already given evidence about the creator already, which obviously you overlooked. The angels do not have the ability to disobey God's commands, meaning they don't have that free will to disobey. When you make robots with a particular program, they only do what you program it. Angels are like this, programmed to obey God. Human beings are created slightly differently. Human beings have been created with a amount of free will, where we can exercise our free will, and we can choose to obey God or disobey God. Up to us. Of course, God tells us, it's better for you to obey God because God has created you for a purpose, and there's going to be consequences of obeying and disobeying. But if you don't want to, this is up to you, but with the detriment and consequences that you have to face yourself. Okay? So, and we see people, as my friend here earlier on said, I'll see you there in hell, meaning he's okay, he wants to choose a path that is going to take him to hellfire, he's okay with that. That's his choice. But God tells us he doesn't wish people or like people to go to hellfire. Right? He created us, showed us the two ways. Whether you're grateful or ungrateful, two ways. The way that leads to paradise and happiness and joy in heaven, or the way that leads to hellfire, torture, suffering. Which one should we choose? God says choose the one which is better for you, heaven. So he constantly reminds us and shows us and encourages us and shows us why we should do that, and tells us abstain and shun and reject the ways that will take you to hellfire. Do not walk in the footsteps of Satan. Satan, who became so arrogant, and then he went away from the path of his Lord. And he says, look, because now I'm doomed, I'm going to take every other human being with me. He asked God for this permission. Okay, make me live until the end of this world so that I can do that. He said, God, okay, well, but you will not be able to mislead people who follows me and my message. Okay? You can mislead those who listen to you. So clearly, we can overpower and overcome Satan. Clearly. Satan comes and whispers you to do all the things which are evil. Evil things. The Quran says when you start reading the Quran, seek refuge with Allah, God, from this accursed Satan. You'll be surprised. Some people say Satan is the author of the Quran. And this book says, may God curse Satan when you start reading the Quran. And the book says, this book cannot be authored by Satan. Satan is your plain enemy. He's the one who commands all that is evil. God commands you all that is good. So clearly, we can see how Satan comes in this play. So yes, Satan comes and whispers people, and they don't have full control of human beings though. They only do whispering and suggesting. You can get rid of this by simply saying, you are Satan. What you just said, what you've done, this is totally wrong, not right, not true. There is one creator, and I'm going to obey this creator alone. I'm going to listen to this creator. I'm going to worship this creator. There are people who say, but what about my people? What about my God, the elephant God? What about my God, the monkey God? What about my God, the man God, or the woman God, or the daughter God, or the sun God, or the moon God? There are people saying, why don't you follow my religion? I'm talking to you as a Muslim, right?
So if I'm an atheist, do you think that I'm a follower of Satan?
If you're an atheist, you're a follower of your own desires, your own self. So you have your own desires, which is directing you to do whatever you want to do. So you've taken your own desires as your ultimate arbiter, ultimate guide, ultimate decision maker, right? Allah tells us in the Quran that there are some people who've taken that, their own desires as their own God. Because a God is anything that you give your gratitude and thanks to. Any object that is object of worship. So some people, how they love football stars and pop stars, this is a kind of worship. When you say, I am the only one, I'm not going to listen to anyone, I follow my own thing, then you're actually making your desires like a god in that sense. You're following your desires, your own thing that your desires tells us. But the problem with following our own desires is this. People throughout centuries have been following their desires, and they have come up with conflicting things, messages, ideologies and teaching. Some people saying my desires tells me that you are black people, you should be dealt with. You are the evil on earth and we need to annihilate all of you. Or vice versa, white people and so on. There are people like this, the KKKs, or the the black people who have said, look, everyone. In fact, some of the people in this park say, you white people, you're the devil. On this park, you'll be surprised, and they carry an iPad. They're digital, in the digital world, they carry an iPad and say you're the devil person because you're white. What can I say? May God help us all. So yes, people have taken their own desires in various ways, and they have invented ideologies and teachings which you clearly know cannot be all right. So if you are an atheist, you know that now there has to be a creator of everything. It only makes sense that there is a creator for our universe. It only makes sense also that this creator is one and absolute. One and absolute. With consciousness, or when I say consciousness, possessor of life, will, energy. Why do I say one? Let me give you an example why I say one. Because some people might think, why not 2 or 3? Do you drive?
I don't drive now.
Okay, you've been in the car.
Yeah.
Suppose you're in a car and there's 2 steering wheels, left and right. And there are 2 drivers. One is me and one is the other driver, right? I'm going to take the car to North in Birmingham. I don't listen to anyone else because I am independent. I'm absolute. I'm self-sufficient, right? I don't care what other people say. I'm going to drive independent of this car to the North. The other driver is also independent of everyone else, including me, right? He's a driver. He's got all the control of the car. He says, I'm going to drive the car to Portsmouth. Where's the car going to go? Possibilities, right? Car doesn't go anywhere. It goes to the north, it goes to the south, or goes somewhere else. If it goes to the north, like I did, then the other driver failed to take and steer the car wherever it's going. You can't have this car going in both ways.
I have a question.
Later. Or you can ask my brother there, right? You can ask my brother this question if you want to. Yeah, please go ahead, yeah? My brother is much more knowledgeable than myself. Please speak to him. So, sunshine, no rain. What's going to happen? Rain or sunshine and no rain? Chaos, corruption. Imagine now one God says, you know what, this guy's talking too much. I want him to be dead right now. That's it. He's God, right? Absolutely all-powerful. I will be dead. Flood dead. That's it. But the other God says, but this guy's making a little bit of sense. I want him to continue talking. I want to live. I want him to live for another, whatever years. 10 years or 20 years or 100 years, right? What's going to happen to me possibly? Either I carry on living and talking now, or I fall dead. If I fall dead, then the other God, other creator, which wanted me to live, failed miserably. Not all powerful, not absolute. But if I kept on living and talking, then the God that wanted me to be dead is the God that failed miserably to make me dead. So he wasn't all powerful. He wasn't all powerful enough to make me dead. So if you look at it this way, you cannot have more than one absolute, because there will be this contradiction. It's not going to work. Yeah. So that's why when we look at this universe, we see evidence of one creator. The universe with all these constants I talk about, evidence of one creator. So that's why we say, yes, if you don't believe in God, but when you realize that the universe is working, clearly evidence for a creator, and that creator is one and only one. What other characteristics? When you examine the guidance that this creator has sent, you will see it's clearly laid down. This creator is called the creator originator of the universe. This creator is called one who is all hearing, all seeing. The one who relates with its creation. This creator, because it's one, this creator has attributes of perfection. So this creator is just, doesn't say, you know what, because the first human beings, they made a mistake by the whispering of Satan, I'm going to punish you for that. There are religions you'll hear that Adam and Eve is common to Judaism, Christianity and Islam, right? If you consider Judaism and Christianity, they will tell you, you can examine them later and you can examine and question them, that Adam and Eve sinned by eating of the apple in a particular garden, right? Garden of Eden. Were you there? I wasn't there. I'm sure you're not there either. I had no clue what was happening hundreds or thousands of years ago, whenever that might be. So I had zero involvement in this eating of the apple. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't there. I didn't do anything myself. So if now a God or a concept of God from a religion tells you, because of what Adam and Eve have eaten of this apple, you are guilty, you are guilty, you are guilty, I'm guilty, I would say, that doesn't look like just. That is a concept of an unjust God who is punishing individuals for nothing of their own crimes, own sins. So when Christianity and Judaism tells you like this, you should ask them, where is the justice in there? Because that's not just by punishing someone which has no involvement. You should punish someone who's guilty of the crime. This is the teaching of Islam. So Islam says, look, everyone innocent until they're proven guilty. Everyone is until proven guilty. Do you think this is the right approach?
Allah
Of course.
72 virgins
Yeah.
in heaven. Is that just for? Is that just?
You see how from
is
the
your
sin
God just?
to become virgins. Why? Because,
72 virgins.
may I ask you about the sin part? Because this is what it introduced.
He's making his God look like
Excuse
very
me.
beautiful, you know.
May I ask you?
That's God.
May I ask you to explain to the lady here, who doesn't believe in Christianity,
Continue explaining
about
But I'm just-
how is it just to punish her for a sin that she did not commit when Adam and Eve ate the apple? Go ahead.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I want to see how he explains
She
it.
agreed with you,
But-
she doesn't need my explanation.
Do you think it's just
What?
that she's guilty for what Adam and Eve did thousands of years ago, perhaps?
The thing is this: God has made a way for mankind, and He has put a law for mankind. But if mankind decided to follow God, he has to keep the law of the commandments of God. But if he wants, you see, you have a free will. If you wants to decide, if you decide to break the law of God, so then you're causing a problem by yourself, not God. It's you that you decided to disobey God. So what happened in the Garden of Eden was man became disobedient of God. God has put everything for him,
Adam and Eve, you
and
mean, right?
he gave him the law, his word, but Adam disobeyed God. So it's not God that make him disobey him.
Of course not.
God, no. Adam, he's got his own
Yeah, of course.
his will, free will, like you do, like I do, like we all do. So using his free will, Adam disobeyed God. So if you talk about Allah being justice, if you talk about Allah being just, so are you talking about a kind of God that let you go to heaven even if you're sinning?
Okay.
Are you talking about that?
So obviously he's not answering that question clearly. He's now talking about something else. I asked you, why do you consider it's just to punish her? What's her name? Charlotte. Charlotte, when she had nothing, no involvement in the sin of Adam. Why is God, in the Christian concept, punishing Charlotte for the sins of Adam when she has clearly no involvement? And your answer was, we haven't heard.
Now you're portraying Christianity. You're giving a bad name.
Would
for-
you mind
you're
answering
trying
the
to
question?
make
Otherwise,
Christianity
if you don't answer, fine. No
Can the
problem.
question-
Can the question be answered?
That's why I'm asking you. Answer,
Okay.
please.
Now,
Why is she guilty?
sorry, what's your name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay. In the New Testament, or right now, we're talking here. Yeah, it's not about Adam. Now we're talking here. So God has put the same way of eternity. You see, there are two eternities: hellfire and heaven. So people can still make a decision. If Charlie wants to disobey God, if she doesn't want to believe in him, to follow him, if she keep breaking his commandments, it's very clear according to the Bible. The Bible says whoever was not found written in the
Can you
book
address
of
the
life.
question? Is she guilty of
I'm
the
answering.
sin of Adam?
Now you're interrupting.
I apologize,
So
but
the
I
Bible-
want you
the
to
Bible
focus
is very
on the
clear.
sin of Adam.
No, hold on.
Why
Now,
is she guilty of that?
This is what you do.
I'm focusing.
It looks like you gave me a chance to
Please go
answer
ahead,
her,
explain, but do not
you're
really
trying to
give a
interrupt
lecture
me.
of something else totally.
No, I'm not lecturing anything. The Bible says very clear in the Gospel of John chapter 3 verse 16, it says, "For God so loved the world, and that he gave his only begotten Son. Whoever believes in him shall not perish." Now there's two things here. Whoever believes in him shall not perish. If you don't believe in him, obviously not in this earth like Allah does.
What's that got to do with Adam? We're talking about Adam.
He is answering. Let's hope he does.
The Quran says, kill disbelievers. Even if I don't believe in Allah right now in this earth, I have to be killed by Muslims.
Do
But
you want to
my God
continue
is not
talking?
like that.
Because obviously he is
God
deflecting
is
to
not like
everything
that.
else apart from answering
Can
that
I
question.
finish my answer? I'm answering.
What does
God
this have
has
to do
given her a
with
chance.
the killing, as you said, Muslims kill and this? What
right.
has this to do
Just look what happened yesterday, man.
anything with justifying Charlotte
just, man.
being guilty of the sin of Adam? What has something good to do with
So
it?
God loves her so much, he wants her to be saved. How can she do it? By believing in Jesus Christ and accepting him as her Lord and Savior. If she do that, she will be saved and she will have everlasting life. Even if she rejects him, God doesn't do anything in this earth.
Okay, thank you
in
very
this
much.
Life,
thank you.
He doesn't do anything to her.
Okay, thank you
But
very much.
Allah does.
Thank you very
Allah
much.
wants to destroy her.
So the question I asked is,
Yeah,
how
he says,
is
kill the
it
disbelievers.
just? When Adam and Eve sinned hundreds of years ago,
true.
when you had no involvement with that sin or that crime, how are you guilty? So the answer he's provided is a standard Christian preaching, totally going away from giving an answer, talking about everything else. Everything else. So I don't have to even make a commentary on this, it's quite obvious. So as I am saying, when we are talking about Islam, as a Muslim, Islam is not a new religion. You might think it's a new religion. Islam is a state of submission of yourself to the will of this one and only God. And that happened with the first man that God created until the end of this world. Whoever submits and surrenders their will, linguistically, they are a Muslim and their religion of Islam. In the legal sense, whoever submits and surrenders will in accordance with the teaching of the last prophet is a Muslim in the technical sense. So Abraham the prophet, peace be upon him, do you know what was his religion? If you ask a Jew and a Christian, what is the religion of Abraham? You will see like, because they haven't got a clue. They will say, oh, he was a Hebrew, but that's not a religion, it's a race. But we can identify what his religion is quite clearly. Judaism and Christianity came much later, so of course he wasn't a Jew or a Christian. Did he believe in one God? Clearly he did. Did he sincerely and willingly submit and surrender his will to the will of one true God? Yes, he did. So that makes him a Muslim and his religion is Islam. So Islam, as you can clearly see, all the prophets, whether it's Jesus, peace be upon him, or Moses, or Noah, peace be upon them all, they brought Islam so that we all accept and follow what is good for us. So as yourself, who's an individual, bright, thinking, rational and reasonable, when you study the Quran, when you study the life of the Prophet ﷺ, you will see it resonates with your heart, the teaching. Islam says, look, Islam says, Islam says, be honest and upright. Stand as a righteous, a right, true witness, even if it against you, against your relative. Do not be swerved by anything. Be just witness, even if it's against you and against yourself. I think in one of the universities in America, whether it's Harvard or somewhere, they have this plaque, this statement of the Quran to show in a legal school. But this is a sublime teaching what everyone should uphold, where if you are going to give witness, be a just witness, even if it goes against your interest or the interests of your family and your relatives and so on. This is what the Quran says. Be a just witness. Quran says always speak the truth, never speak a lie. Stand firm in justice. Be kind and be merciful. Do not mock people. Do not mock a nation or a community. It may be that they're better than you. Do not insult. Do not backbite. So all of this teaching, your heart will resonate. You'll say, yeah, of course, I like that teaching. Of course I do. It says what? Be compassionate to people, be merciful to people, be kind to people, be just. Of course this is what your heart wants. It says, be you sincere. Of course. It says, read and reflect and investigate. That's what you are doing, and that's what your mind wants. So when you read the Quran, you will see you already believing in it, because what the Quran says about this teaching, you already have taken in already. So what the Quran is basically saying, why would you not come to Islam? What's stopping you? Why would you still persist in following your own desires? instead of following the path of the prophets and messengers. Because through the prophets and messengers, the Creator has given us the best guidance of life, which will then determine the effects in the hereafter. For example, when you interact with people, what do? Do you deceive them, or do you always deal with them honestly? The people who have money and wealth and power and means, they will say, if you can overcome them by your deception, so what? You become more richer and richer. Mentality of the people, Quran says no. In fact, the Quran talks about usury in the sense that God and His messengers dictate war on interest and usury. Because when, in this world today, if you want to borrow money, £1,000, £10,000, do you pay the same amount back? You have to pay a huge amount of interest. Why? Because they're exploiting your weakness. They know you are in need, and these greedy individuals, they want to capitalize and make more money on your weakness. Islam says no. You cannot deal with these kind of things. When you interact financially, if someone wants to borrow money, give the same amount back. Don't put interest on charge. So this is more just, rather than being so greedy and so on. So when the Quran talks about these things, human interactions, it tells you to deal with these people fairly, be justly and fairly. And this is what we should do. So when you examine Islam and when you examine the Quran, your heart will not disagree with the teaching. So when you find that the Quran says, fight those who fight you.
Exactly.
Fight those who fight you.
Christian unbelievers.
Please. The Quran says who?
Jews.
Does the
You
Quran,
pay jizya. What does it mean?
may I-
Taxes. You have to pay taxes.
May I
If
finish?
you don't pay the taxes, you get killed. That's what the Quran says. So
The Quran,
you say,
I'll read it myself.
the Quran says,
please bury the Bible too and compare the two of them.
of course,
Muhammad, yes,
Be
is
on open
Quran
mind
to
and read.
Jesus in Christianity, and you compare the two of them, and you find the truth.
sure. So when the Quran says, fight those who fight you and do not commit transgression,
Many others.
if you're a pacifist, you might say you shouldn't be fighting at all. But the Quran doesn't take the pacifist stance. Why? Because there are moments in time where you cannot be pacifist.
Did you read the hadith?
Do you have family? If your family is attacked, are you going to say, oh, here's my child underneath the bed, kill him as well? You're not going to do that. You are going to, with all your strength and ability, defend yourself. You'll say, no, you're not going to let away. You're not going to harm my dad, my mom, my sister, my brother, my youngster. I will try to stop you from doing that. This is human nature, how we want to protect our own selves, our own family. So if you are part of a brotherhood or a sisterhood, your own people, you want to protect them. So if, excuse me, if you see your life, the life of your own people, your community is in danger and is threatened, you will resist and you will defend yourself, you will fight. But who do you fight? Are you going to fight when they have done all these things and go at night time and find the little kids and then kill them like a coward? No. You fight the aggressors, you fight those who fight you. This is the teaching of Islam. You don't fight non-combatants. You don't kill women, children, old men, monks, priests. This is the clear teaching of Islam. So what happened yesterday? What happened a few days ago, weeks ago in Manchester or in Westminster Bridge and so on? Lunatics. Actions of lunatics. This has, of course. That's what they claim to be, right? But
Do you say Allahu Akbar?
but clearly they're lunatics because it is a sign.
Islamic term, man.
Listen,
That's Islam.
a lunatic,
It's not,
a
I never
person
heard
who's really.
a Hindu man saying Allahu Akbar. I never heard Christians say Allahu Akbar. I never said.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, if I may, right? If a Muslim says, I am a Muslim, my name is Abdullah, and goes and rapes a woman, and says Allahu Akbar and rapes a woman, and do you think now the whole Muslim world should say, I apologize on his behalf? This guy is clearly crazy. Islam says no to rape. You can't rape anyone.
No, it doesn't say that. It says you can take sex slaves and you can rape the sex slaves. It says that very clearly.
You know what? You come and go, right? You come and go. You find for some reason he thinks somehow you're having some sense and it will have an effect on you. He doesn't appreciate that. Unfortunately, this is the reality. If I see someone suddenly realizes that, okay, racism is bad, even it came from an atheist who advised, I say, thank you for making you understand that racism is bad. I'm not going to say, I have to totally dismantle that. No, actually racism is good, because how can you believe in what the atheist says? No. Good can come from lots of people, but what we're saying is, ultimately, what is good is described by God, okay? Even though what you do, actions which may be actions of goodness. But if you hope for a reward in the hereafter, you as an atheist won't be getting it, because you did not acknowledge the one who created you. So if you work for a company, just to illustrate my point, if you work for a company, right? If you work for a company, and then there's a competitor, right, of this company, and then you do all the works with the other guys, other company. You distribute their leaflets, do their marketing and so on and so forth. Do you expect at the end of the day, because you're employed, your employer should really give you good wages because you're doing their work? Come on. If you are employed for a company, do the works of that company. So if you do not want to believe God is your creator, don't expect God's going to reward you in the hereafter, even though you do things good. You've been kind and compassionate and so on. What you've done, you've totally said, you don't exist. You're not my creator. So don't expect God to reward you in the hereafter, because he won't.
The Quran that you recite today, it was compiled by Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Look at the Sadqah Jariyah Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu gets. It's been over 1300 plus years that Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu in his era compiled the Quran. Billions and billions of people have been reciting the Quran and will continue to recite right till the Day of Judgment. Just imagine the ajr and the reward Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu will receive on the Day of Judgment. My young friends, this is a golden opportunity. I've been asked to make an appeal for a center in Oslo in which the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be taught, the Quran will be taught. And the best reward that you will get is if you participate in centers like this, because once you've left this world, the sadaqah you will keep on receiving. When the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were not content in terms of their akhirah, why should you and I be content in terms of our akhirah? Do what you can while you can, because you only live once. You're here today, you're gone tomorrow, and the only thing that will benefit you in terms of your akhirah are the a'mal that you've done in the dunya while you were here. Please, please, please participate in this good deed. You will not regret it on the Day of Judgment. Allah give me tawfiq, Allah give you tawfiq. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.